So we'll go ahead and get started. I think everybody is here that we're expecting from FCPS. We do have member signed up, community member signed up for public comment. So I'll go ahead and commence the meeting and we'll start with public comment. And I have Sheree Howard signed up. So we can.
Does that mean I get the
Mr.
entire
Murphy.
half hour? Actually, sure. Good morning. Some of these are quotes from y'all's last meeting, but I didn't bring my list of who said what, so I will get that to you if you prefer. But it has been said that FCPS has always been a leader in virtual learning and in thinking about the vision of the future. Another quote, that RBP makes sure that every child, every day does happen. Another quote, our promise is to empower our young people, no matter who they are, no matter their backgrounds or circumstances. RBP was a constant and secure educational platform for all students whose physical, emotional, or mental well-being is jeopardized by in-person learning. I hear the word inclusion a lot. FCPS seems to think that to just do it and systems in place will make it work, but it really isn't. I've been talking to parents. They've been telling me how their students are regressing in educational and emotional stability since returning in person this year. I've heard from a school nurse whose mornings are full of students whose stress levels are making them so upset that they feel too sick to go to class. At the 410 meeting, Dr. Vetter spoke of a whole child approach and how schools understand how inextricably emotional well-being is to learning. The RBP students were and are thriving because RBP doesn't just pick up the pieces. RBP helps to put those pieces back together. Please make RBP a school for all grades. It provides an education that deserves to be valued, utilized, and promoted. And so do the students whose needs it fills. I understand that there's a monetary value involved, but there's really no equal opportunity that provides for the needs of some of these children. I did hear at your last meeting that there's actually an increasing enrollment during the year for the middle school last year. I don't think, and I also went to one of the CC, one of the meetings, and they didn't even know, for the special education meeting, what is that called? CCAC, that's it, that's the one. They didn't even know at the time that RBP was an option. The school nurse I spoke with didn't know about RBP. I think it could be much more promoted, much more utilized. I do believe there's a place for it. I don't have children in the system, but I do believe in this. And so I show up and I love you guys. I thank you very much for listening and have a good day. Thank you. Thank you.
Public comment. And there's no one else signed up for public comment. And our next item, the minutes from the August 7th meeting. And we don't make motions on this, do we? We just.
For consensus.
Consensus for approval?
I think they're accurate.
Okay. Mr. J, any comment on the meeting minutes from August 7th? I wasn't here. So.
No comment.
Okay, thank you. And board member comments. Mr. J, I'll start with you since you're remote.
Thank you all for. I look forward to. Thank you so much.
Mr. Bass.
Yeah. Looking forward to the presentation. And, yeah, getting started.
And same for me. Professional development is critical to our journey towards being the best educational system that we can be. And so I look forward to hearing what we have for today. Next up, then we have agenda item, the only one on our agenda item, so Dr. Harris. I think we'll start with you, or Dr. Murphy, or Mr. Murphy. Should I kick over to you and then you can just take over the meeting?
Dr. Gall's gonna
Yeah,
kick us
we're
off.
going to just kick us off. So good morning, and for members of the public, my name is Kathy Gall, and I'm one of 2 directors in CII, along with my colleague, Mr. Murphy. And we're excited today that we have Dr. Harris, Dr. Myers, and Ms. Morgan here to discuss professional learning and leadership development. And so we're going to turn it over to this fantastic team.
Okay, all right. Keith Harris, Chief of Equity and Organizational Development. And as Dr. Gall said, with me today is Corinne Myers, Director of Leadership Development within the Equity and Organizational Development Department, and Andrea Morgan, who is the Manager of our Support Employee Growth. Now, as we come each year, typically we concentrate on our teachers and hiring, and I am going to touch base on our teaching and our hiring where we are. But today we thought we'd bring in a different aspect of our programming in equity and organizational development, leaning more into leadership development and the work that we do for our support employees. And so we're concentrating on Blueprint Pillar 2. That really speaks to high quality and diverse teachers and leaders. And it's the leaders part that we're going to sort of concentrate. But before we dive deeply into our leadership development as well as our support employee work today, I do want to touch base on some of our hiring work and just some of the continued work that we do for our teachers. I want to just give you a preview and an overview of where we are with our new teacher support. As you see, we've hired, and this is a snapshot in time, and so these numbers fluctuate all the time, but approximately 226 new teachers that we brought on board for this school year. As we've looked over the past couple of years, we have about 1,100 teachers who are non-tenured teachers. And then we also have a growing number of teachers who are conditionally certified teachers. And so when we talk about conditionally certified teachers, these are teachers who they may have completed a teacher prep program, but just need to pass their licensure exams. They may be those who have a degree, but have not completed the pedagogy courses that they need. And so they're still working towards those things. And so it could be a variety of different teachers and circumstances. And so the 60 that you see up there are the newly hired conditional teachers for this year. The 265 is just the very general and approximation of how many conditionally certified teachers we have in our school system. I do want to say that many of our newly hired conditional teachers are special education teachers. And with that, a lot of them are teachers who have been in our schools for their entire prep program. They're at the final phase of their student teaching. And so because we know these teachers, because they've demonstrated performance, we'll go ahead and conditionally hire them so we can keep them in our school system. Some of these are part of our Grow Your Own program for special education teachers in our partnership with Mount St. Mary's University that have been working in our school systems under our guidance and leadership. So I just sort of wanted to highlight that piece. The supports that you all are familiar with for our new teachers comes in a variety of ways. Our primary way is through our RISE induction program, which is a 3-year experience for our new and our beginning teachers. And this program really gives them a variety of experiences to be able to really get settled into the teaching practices and get mentoring and support, not only in their building, but systemically throughout their entire 3 years. I do want to highlight that while our program has been successful over the past several years, one of the changing dynamics that we will experience in our RISE program is due to a shift in the certification requirements for our teachers. MSDE is moving away from certification to a licensure type of program. And with the licensure type of program, one way to advance from their initial certification to a professional certification is by going through our 3-year induction RISE program. And so as we're making the shift over to this new licensure program, we do anticipate increased numbers of teachers going through our RISE program, which is good. Because it is recognized by MSDE as a quality way for them to advance in their certification. At the same time, we'll just have to manage the increased numbers. So with that. So I did want to just provide just a very general overview of our hiring for this year. But where we're really going to dive into our presentation for today is with our work in leadership development and our workforce support employees. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Myers to talk about leadership development.
Thank you for having us this morning. I'm excited to talk about the leadership development that we offer our leaders here in Frederick County Public Schools.
Oh,
You
want me to
passed
do
it on. No,
Okay.
I am happy to do it. I just didn't know that we passed the torch. All right. So we also, as we do for our new teachers, we take this very similar approach with our leaders here in Frederick County Public Schools, and we offer many supports as they transition to their new role. One being the Leaders Inspire and Facilitate Transformation Leadership Coaching Program. So all of our new school-based administrators are assigned a leadership coach. And so periodically throughout their year, minimally 2 times a month, they touch base with a leadership coach to provide them that immediate support that they need as they go through their dynamic days and months as a school leader. We know that this is kind of like their bat phone. They give them a call when something is happening, and they're able to get that urgent need of support fulfilled. And so that we've been very thrilled with the reports of success, both on the side of our new employees, but we also hear from those that serve in the leadership coach role that they grow from the experience. It gets them to start to re-lens their principalship or their assistant principalship and start to reflect and grow in new ways. So really it's doing dual purpose. And so what a way to grow both sides of that partnership. We also extend an invitation for what we call Leadership Launch. This is launching our new folks into their new role. They get introduced to our systemic priorities, our systemic initiatives, and think about how they fit into our mission and vision here in FCPS. They spend some time meeting our systemic leaders and then get really specific about how it feels to take on a new team and take on new roles. We have also collaborated with our SAIL team, he's back there. So with all of our school administration and leadership, instructional leadership directors, we come together with all of our new assistant principals and our school coordinators that are housed at the school level. And once a month, they come together to kind of create some connections in this new role and talk about some of the relevant topics that need to be addressed, timely topics, whether it be teacher observations or things that are coming up for them in the course of the month. They also get some time with our systemic leaders. So we have that both on the elementary and secondary side. The final part of this onboarding experience, anybody that is new to the observation and evaluation role gets provided an extensive professional learning experience to be sure that we are calibrated in our approach for observation evaluation. We spend a lot of time focusing in on the Danielson framework, all of the components within that framework, also how to provide high quality feedback for our teachers.
So we have an onboarding process for our teachers, onboarding and induction, and we do the same thing for our beginning leaders as well.
This just gives you a quick overview about how many school-based administrators we have been hiring over the course of the last few years. We also have consistent systemic leadership that we provide all our FCPS leaders across the district. And so we have a multitude of structures that we use to provide that systemic professional learning. We have FCPS Connects that pulls in every leader across our district, and we meet twice a year. We're really focusing on this idea of promoting a trusting culture and focusing in on psychological safety so that we can create that environment here that allows our FCPS culture to thrive. In Inspired Blue and Yellow, this is where we meet with our instructional leaders. We're focused in here on special education and instructional equity. We also get together with our business services group. We meet with them a couple times a year, and we really dive deeply into some choice sessions that they've determined will help them be successful in their role, and they get to pick and choose what they go to.
And then the business services group, it includes staff from human resources, from fiscal services, from facilities. So anyone that's not on the instructional side, we also provide professional development for them.
And then ACT Central Leadership also comes together so that we can continue to collaborate across central leadership and really think about the work that we need to do as central leaders to ensure that we are providing the best supports we can for our school-based folks. We certainly want to also provide some optional professional learning for our leaders as well. And these are open to anybody in that FCPS Connects group, which means all the leaders here in Frederick County Public Schools. If they want to jump into something after their day, to really start reflecting about their leadership and how they show up each and every day in service of both their staff and our students here in Frederick County Public Schools. So this just gives you a little snapshot of our offerings that we had last year. A big part of our work in leadership development is really thinking about how we continue to succession plan and how we ensure that as we continue to go through our years here in FCPS, we have a bench of leaders that are ready to take on the roles, as we know that there will continue to be turnover. And so we have our elite program, our Exceptional Leaders Innovating and Transforming Education, really focus on building that premier leadership development program so that we are ensuring that we have equity-focused and research-informed leaders across our district. And we want to make sure that we are transforming leaders so that they serve our students, our staff, and our communities of Frederick County in the best possible way. So there are 4 branches to our elite program. One is Elite Amplify, and that really targets our aspiring and current teacher leaders. We focus in on some cross-cutting skills like collaboration, communication, equity leadership, systems thinking, and adult learning theory. And these are open to any of our aspiring or current teacher leaderships. We are launching our first module this fall, and it is full with 60 participants, and we're really excited about that opportunity. We have our Elite Academy, which is for our aspiring assistant principals. We have had 5 cohorts to date, and it's been an exciting journey each and every time. We have updated and revised based on feedback and based on our systemic priorities to ensure that what we provide in the professional learning aligns to the direction and our needs here in FCPS. We also have Elite Aspire for our aspiring principals. And so that typically is launched in tandem with our Elite Academy, and they work together on the same topics to ensure that we are aligned and we're moving forward. They have the unique opportunity of mentoring some of the Academy participants. As a principal, you would mentor an AP. It's an incredibly important role that our principals serve, and so that gives them the opportunity to serve in that role and get some practice as that mentor. And finally, we have another new unique experience here, which is Elite Accelerate. And this is a new program for those that are aspiring for executive leadership. And so this is something, we have 6 folks right now that have started that program. They're really focusing on themselves first as leaders, how they show up day in and day out, and how that impacts their relationships and partners within the system, and then how that's going to then impact them as they think about making that shift into executive leadership. So just to give you a couple quotes that we have received over the course of time about our programming, I pulled here one from the Elite Academy. As well as one from Elite Aspire.
Your next slide has the name and picture. These quotes are anonymous.
Yes, those are, because when we gather feedback, it is anonymous, because we want folks to feel free to share any type of feedback that they want with us. That way, if there's something that we need to improve, they are free to share that. And so that's why we give them the benefit of being anonymous. We did reach out to Susan Verde, who participated in multiple programs. She initially was going to come, but some things are happening at her school, as they are in many schools. So she was very kind and offered to write a little statement for us. So I'm going to read that to you now. The Elite Professional Learning Experience is a unique and innovative opportunity to hone leadership skills. The outcomes cannot be achieved through typical learning pathways such as MSD courses, book studies, or graduate classes. Learning from leaders within our system ranks as one of the top professional learning experiences I have had in my 26 years with FCPS. This memory from 2018 serves as an example of why such leadership development programs are needed. I recently returned to the school-based position at Tuscarora Elementary School from a central office-based position. One of the factors leading to this decision was that I was so excited about this new initiative called ALP, or the Accelerated Learning Process, that I wanted to be a part of the school-based implementation. When I shared this in my Elite interview, I was asked, well, how did it go? I responded that it was much like a television show, Top Chef. You know exactly what you want to do. One hand is tied behind your back, you are missing several ingredients, and you have half the time needed to perfect the dish. When you walk through the schoolhouse doors in a leadership position, it is go time. There's no more time to think or plan. It's time to implement the skills you have acquired to deal with the matters at hand. The Elite Academy program provided critical opportunities for me to practice and hone my skills so that I was ready to respond to the realities of the school day. The structure of the Elite Academy provided stop, drop, and lead exercises, hot seat sessions, and times to discuss, understand, and apply the FCPS mission, vision, and systemic goals and initiatives. As a participant, I had access to the tools that I could use to learn how my colleagues and supervisors perceive my strengths and weaknesses and compare that to my self-evaluation in order to set personal goals. I completed projects for my school that prepared me for the role of administrator, such as calibrating observations, developing an administrative entry plan, and establishing collaborative structures for ALP and core teams. I found this experience to be so valuable that when Elite Aspire was launched, I didn't hesitate to apply. I craved the high-quality continuous learning that the Elite programs have become known for. In the Elite Aspire program, I was able to serve as a mentor to 2 Elite Academy participants. This role caused me to stretch my leadership skills, and as you might expect, I learned more from my mentees than I probably taught them. I even returned as an Elite observer, providing feedback to Elite Academy participants on their performance during sessions. My primary purpose was to observe. I managed to find a little time to take a few notes on the content. The next day, I would show the handouts to my administrative team at school, usually remarking about what was learned at Elite. As an Academy graduate and an Aspire graduate, I was still learning by just being present in the room. The elite programs are instrumental in growing our next cohort of system leaders in FCPS. The experience is unmatched, and I am proud to be serving as an administrator whose preparation for the role was largely supported through these opportunities. So I am going to turn it over to our fabulous Manager of Support and Employee Growth, Andrea Morgan.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here and allowing us to share a little bit about our roles in FCPS. To get started, I would like to let you all know that our department works closely with all of the departments on a regular basis to assist with onboarding, professional learning, and training opportunities for all of our support staff that come into the system. So part of our ongoing support that we offer for our support employees includes the support employee website, which we like to kind of hone as a one-stop shop. It houses a lot of resources, frequently asked questions, links to other documents, training opportunities, notes, and so forth. And it's broken down more so based on a type of role versus an actual job title, because a lot of our support staff intermingle between different tasks. We have professional learning opportunities that are both in-person and asynchronous. We house a lot of our asynchronous trainings on our unified talent platform, which is also where we house all of our COMAR required trainings. And then we offer all of our staff in the system Percipio, which is another online learning platform so that they can gather and get additional resources for them. We have community partnerships throughout Frederick County. One of the ones that we work with on a regular basis is Frederick Community College, who helps assist our staff with getting their paraprofessional education certification. So we do have 2 opportunities this year to continue those certifications for our IAs and SCIAs. I have monthly open office hours for staff to come in, drop in if they have any questions. They can reach me outside of those, but it's just a guaranteed time that they can come in and ask questions and meet with me virtually. And then our department offers a quarterly newsletter, which gives staff resources, training opportunities, highlights upcoming events, but then it also showcases support staff. And when I say this, what I mean is we do a day in the life of. So a support staff member can share what their typical day looks like, and then it's showcased to all of the support staff in our system. We also have a kudos shout out where staff can nominate and brag about wonderful work that's happening in the system with our FCPS support staff. So that's featured in those newsletters as well. A new program that our department started was the Build Your Own program. This program in its entirety is designed to elevate learning and increase the necessary skills that a support employee would need for career advancement and to learn those skills to further their career path. Our first one that we started with was the Build Your Own secretary cohort. So this ended this past school year. It started in January of 2024. And that was an 8-week session. That session focused on topics that included understanding the role of an executive assistant or an upper level secretary in the administrative support role. They learned different communication styles and ways to provide high quality, effective communication, dealing with sensitive communication, and all the types of communication that come into the offices. We talked about technology and broke down budget so that they could serve as a resource to help with day-to-day budgeting and then long-term budgeting. And then at the end of the program, we worked directly with human resources to give them necessary skills to create an effective cover letter, interview successfully. Some of the participants, and we did have, 18 applicants. So some of those participants did decide to go into the micro-credential component of this program. So that was a little different. All participants were able to get the material and the learning from the 8 weeks. The micro-credential was above and beyond. Those participants completed a portfolio where they submitted evidence of each of the modules and the learning that they received during that time. And then they participated in a mock interview in front of a panel of judges that included many of our cabinet members and executive assistants. So out of those, we had 9 that were micro-credentialed.
I think I see Dr. Marco.
You do see a Dr. Marco. He is up on the screen. And I would like to share that of this, we had 2 successful micro-credential staff members that were promoted after this program. One was promoted to an executive assistant, and then another one was a long-term sub, and she was promoted to a school-based secretary. So our participants were anywhere from long-term substitutes, we had instructional assistants, special education instructional assistants, financial specialists, and current secretaries that were in the system. And then another thing that we did hear back from a lot of our leaders in the system, even from our principals as well, would comment on the learning that they received, elevated their current roles as well. As Corinne said, we also do anonymous feedback. So these are just 2 of the comments that we received. We did surveys after each module so that we had time to, if there was something we needed to improve on, we could implement that immediately. And then we did a much larger survey at the end of it that asked information about all 8 modules. So these were 2 of the comments that we received. And as I mentioned, we did have one of our participants who was promoted as an executive assistant. Doria Munoz was unable to be here today, but she did share with us as well. So I would like to take a minute and read her statement. So she says, the Build Your Own Secretary cohort gave me the confidence I needed to apply for an executive assistant position. Throughout the course, I was able to learn new skills and improve the ones I already had. We were given optional pre-work assignments that prepared us for the next session. I took this pre-work as an opportunity to deeply engage with the experience, for which I am grateful. The course also included visits from cabinet members who shared their wisdom, leaving a significant impact on the class. Participating in the mock interviews and receiving positive feedback from cabinet members provided the extra push I needed to confidently pursue an executive assistant role. I applied for the executive assistant role to public affairs position and successfully secured the job. I am now 2 months into my role, applying the skills I gained from the Build Your Own Secretary cohort. I believe the Build Your Own Secretary cohort was a wonderful professional learning opportunity, and I would highly recommend it to others.
And I can attest to Ms. Munoz's growth in the program. She was a secretary in my department, and I worked closely with her and had the opportunity to firsthand observe how she was growing through the program. And now she's with public affairs. So kudos to Doreen. So this is our presentation. So now it's time for any comments and questions that you have. But I do want to say, you mentioned, you saw a picture up there with Dr. Marco presenting. Dr. Marco is intimately involved in the planning, the preparation, the presentations, the development of all of our leadership development programs, as well as our Build Your Own programs for our support employees. So I want to thank Dr. Marco for his leadership.
Because he's equally often.
So, thank you. All right, questions and discussion.
We'll start with Mr. J.
Yeah.
Mr. J, we'll start with you.
Sure, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
So first, speak to that one comment for about job being dynamic for our leaders. That's a very excellent one. I want to thank our leaders for all they do. The job is definitely dynamic. It's one of the benefits of teaching in school that never the same day twice. I had questions that really came down to, first of all, it was a wonderful presentation. Thank you for what you're doing for our leaders and our support staff and building them up to be the best. And actually, while we're on this note, I will say that for past, let's say several years, I've always known that FCPS has the best training. My mentor teacher told me, her concern was that this was so phenomenal. But her concern was for he's still on the way.
I think it's dropping out.
Yeah, Mr. J, you're dropping out a little bit. Can I just Can I ask that you maybe slow down in your speaking, if possible?
Is it more of a connection issue or my speed?
I'm not sure, but if I would like just to offer that you just slow down your rate of speech.
Sure. So let's go with this. Excellent presentation. I have a question on the RISE program for the educators being moved from certification to licensure. How smooth will that be for them?
And I'll just, before we answer, that was much better. We were able to catch everything. So if you could continue that, we'd be very grateful.
So, Mr. J, we are currently in that transition process right now. It was put in place by MSDE in April of this past school year. And so those new teachers are now in the licensure process. And as our existing teachers, as their certifications expire, then they will start in the licensure process. So the process is happening right now with that entire transition. The major piece of that transition is a move away from only being able to move from one level of certification to the next based on the coursework that you complete, to the licensure piece is really focused on you can complete coursework, but you can also complete a variety of different experiences based on points. Each experience, based on the number of hours, will give you a certain number of points. And in order to move from one level of licensure to the next, you have to accomplish a certain number of points in order to be able to do that. And so that process is in transition now. And Mr. J, I know you're probably taking some notes and things, and we hear all of the clicks. So I hope that you heard what I was just sharing.
I don't know about any clicks. I was just listening. My question is really for students, teachers who are currently licensed. So when they are currently certified, they have to change over to licensure, and there's work involved. They're not grandfathered in.
So it's not a grandfather in. It is when their certification expires, then in order to get newly certified, it's no longer the certification process, it's a licensure process. And
Okay.
so it is a smooth transition. They don't have to make an abrupt change, whereas everybody now goes to this new process. It's a gradual process that as you complete your current certificate, now let's move over to the licensure process in order to work towards your next level of certification.
Okay. And I have another question. But before we get to that question, will that be a big lift for us, or are we anticipating it being kind of a smooth transfer for us, for our current teachers?
So the big lift really is getting timely information and feedback from MSDE. I think there are some changes that are constantly evolving, and actually we are in a really good position because of our onboarding induction programs, our RISE programs. So we're really in a good position to really change over some things. It's just a matter of making sure that the work that we do in FCPS meets the demands of MSDE as they are continuing to evolve this process. The lift is going to become in the number of opportunities that we have for teachers to develop points. And that really translates to, we now have to offer a variety of different experiences, monitor and track those experiences, so that when it comes time for teachers to renew their license, then they have documentation and they've had a way over 5 years to be able to say, here's all of the work that I've done, but they're not waiting till the last minute to say, let me pull this stuff together. Mm-hmm. They're gathering the information, documenting it, recording it, getting it approved along the way. So right now, that's the lift that we have. And then, as I said during the presentation, because the licensure process opens up the door to the way teachers can become licensed with more opportunities. One of the ways that MSDE is recognized is through our 3-year RISE induction experience, particularly for some of our conditional teachers. So we anticipate a rise in participation because that is a really good pathway for our teachers as opposed to immediately going through coursework and a degree program.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. My second question was about our leaders. And so, in terms of the blueprints requirements going forward for the administrators that have to now be in the classroom, what are we doing to prepare our current leaders for that change? And do we have those kind of points and tips and trainings in our current leadership program for our rising leaders?
So that is a work that is constantly in process. We have work groups and planning teams that have been working since last year. They are continuing to work this year in planning for some of those blueprint types of requirements. And so that's a work in progress as we continue to work with MSDE to really determine what actually will be based upon what the current written guidelines and expectations are. But Tom, I didn't know if you wanted to weigh in at all about some of our work that we're doing to prepare administrators for some of the blueprint requirements.
Yeah, so I happen to be on the 2.0 Pillar 2, which is preparing. We've had work groups at elementary, middle, and high school level looking at scheduling because of the 60-40 challenge. We've been looking at what resources in a limited budget environment in which administrators can make the changes necessary to move that way. And we've been talking about change and trust, how we move from what we have currently to where we're going, and how that just doesn't happen. The requirement of making sure that we have the right processes in place, and we have done some work with trust, as I'm sure you all are aware, and how that transponds to trust with school administrators, to the teachers, as we're in this change place. So I think part of what you all shared with the leadership development, it's all aligned. Dr. Marco and Dr. Harris have done a great job of providing our new leaders with where the vision of where we're going. That's bringing people up to speed is really important as they take on these leadership positions. And I think this training that our team does is really helpful. We're incorporated into a lot of the training, Scott and Kathy are. So as we are bringing new people in the fold, the gap between what we hope they will know in their first year hopefully reduces a lot, because that first year is probably the biggest challenge. And you saw 28 people this year are new to us. And one of the things we try to do is bring them up to speed as quickly as we can so that they are, feeling comfortable and capable of making decisions in this time of change.
The other one thing I would add, thank you, Mr. Saunders, and to address Mr. Jay's question, and Dr. Harris mentioned this being a work in progress. These work groups, this coming year is really going to be a heavy lift in the design of schedules, of things like the career ladder. But the other part of being a work in progress, when it comes to teachers progressing through a career ladder, or even the notion of administrators teaching, there's impact on our negotiated agreements. So even if the blueprint says, or the AIB says, we still have to work with our associations on some of the specifics. So that's another example of a work in progress that all the districts will have to do.
Thank you for that. That's a clarifying point there. Having our agreements in line with those as well. Thank you all.
You want to go next? You want to go?
Sure. One thing that I think about in this kind of leadership presentation, the consolidation of these two departments, the equity department, the organizational development department. Yeah, can you speak a little bit about ways that you think that consolidation has benefited FCPS, or, any challenges that are worth discussing?
So everything that we do in our school system is equity-driven, evidence-informed. And with some of the board's policies, such as 444, it's an expectation that we keep in consideration in all of our curriculum and all of our work that we do, that each and every student is able to work, each staff member is able to work, showing up as their authentic selves. And so what this transition in departments has allowed us to do is really to make sure that we're lensing everything with the consideration of each and every student, each and every staff member. And so the efficiencies that's been created is the sense that instead of doing work in one area and then having to do the work or lens it differently in this area, we're really lensing work together and working together in partnership. So it is, and not only with the Equity and Organization Development Department, but in the ACTS division, we have worked cross-team, cross-department to make sure that all of our work is in sync with our professional learning, with our equity training, because that is significant. But we don't want our equity training to be isolated. Some of it is standalone, that we have to have a core set of understanding. And then some of it is integrated into all of the other work that we do. And so it was mentioned about instructional equity. So as we are developing curriculum, and so you all can comment on that, as we are working through processes in schools, we do so with the equity piece embedded in every single thing that we do. So we've realized those efficiencies.
I don't know if it would take us off topic. I feel like I don't know exactly what instructional equity means.
Okay, all right. So with instructional equity, basically it means that as we are developing curriculum materials, as we are developing and teaching staff pedagogy in the classroom, we have to move away from presenting things that we've heard about, that sounds good, that looks good, that's easy to do. We want to make sure that it has been shown to be effective to work with diverse groups of students in the classroom. And so we want everything to be evidence informed, which basically means not only has it been shown to be effective from research, but then it also takes into consideration what we know about the students in that classroom and who is before us. And then it also takes into consideration what we know about teaching and learning as the professional and the instructor. And so that's the instructional equity piece. It also is recognizing that we still have some work to do with some of our gaps in our classroom. And how do we present curricular information, instructional information to students in such a way that is going to meet the needs of all students, regardless of their background, their experience, their learning gaps. And so that's a little bit about that. We've presented previously to CNI on our work with research-informed work and evidence-informed work. That's a part of that instructional equity piece as well. So did you all want to add anything?
Equity and curriculum is a topic for our June CNI committee, and so you'll learn more about that at that point in time. And so
Not
The
us.
next board.
very true. So we can go ahead and answer that question now as well. But much like what Dr. Harris said, but you're also going to hear a presentation this afternoon on multi-tiered systems of support.
Yes.
And that aligns perfectly with what instructional equity means. And so I think that will deepen your understanding.
Sure.
Well, and just to give you some data, so although we're not giving it this year because the state is coming up with a new assessment, the kindergarten readiness assessment sort of measures how well kids are prepared for school in kindergarten, the basic skills that they need to learn how to read and write and math and self-regulate and things like that. for the several years, 1 out of 2 students come to us ready for kindergarten. So that just kind of speaks to the need to make sure that we have solid tier 1 instruction and we have the supports in place for all students.
How do you test whether, excuse me, can I just,
I,
how do you test whether
Right.
a kindergartner, is it pre-K or kindergarten you just said?
These are kindergarten
Partner,
students.
right.
And
How
so
do you test whether or not they can self-regulate? Or assess?
The KRA actually does a couple of different things. Now, I will preface this with saying that MSDE has decided that we're not going to administer the KRA this year because they're looking at a different assessment that is not linguistically biased or culturally biased. And so that's what they're researching and getting us a different assessment. But it does things like developmental appropriate activities and responses to questions. So for example, can you hop on one foot? Or what is the child about to do? And you see a picture of a child going to kick a ball. So it's just looking at, can the child process and understand and respond to questions and directions and things like that. So we can get some more information from Leslie Fry, our supervisor of ECE, on
It's more
specific.
curiosity, like
Yeah.
immediately I think, how do you assess that?
Sure, yeah.
You just
They're developmentally appropriate.
push the buttons until
Yeah.
they don't regulate. I don't know. So just wanted to get off.
Also, Mr. Bass, yesterday, our administrators had their professional learning, our principals did, and we had presenting to them on our instructional expertise strand, a researcher and author by the name of Jim Hill, who does a lot of work with research-informed and effective strategies that's in the classroom. And so one of the things that I can offer you, if you're not able to make it back in June, is today, actually, we are kicking off the second year of our Learning Science Consortium. And with the Learning Science Consortium, we have some of our teachers in preparation programs, as well as our administrators and teachers in some of our buildings. They're coming together and they're learning about research-informed strategies that have been found and shown to be very effective by the research and by practice in the classroom. And they'll be learning about some instructional equity strategies that they can implement in their schools and in the classroom. So some of these are on a board meeting day like the one today, but then there are a couple that are not. And so I will make sure you have that information in case you want to stop in.
Sure, thank you. Couple more questions. I'm thinking about the elite programs and just one strategic goal that the system has had for a while is really ensuring that teachers and administrators, that the demographics match our student body. And I actually wonder if the elite programs, in being the training and feeder pattern for administrators, that's a place that we can really try to start achieving those goals.
Yeah, that is always an effort for us. And one of the things that we work with our instructional directors is to help us to identify some aspiring teachers and aspiring leaders who are highly successful in the roles that they're in and are also from diverse backgrounds so that they can be part of our elite programs. So that is absolutely a way that we can start to continue to address some of the diversity areas that we have in our leadership.
Yeah. Well, I'm not asking for the numbers necessarily right now, but it would be interesting to see if currently, if the demographics in, say, the elite program are close to mirroring our student demographics.
Okay, we can look at that information for you.
Sure, thank you. Maybe one more question. Potentially two more, but I'll keep it to one. So the 226, right, first year, non-tenured new teachers, that's definitely lower than the last few years. I could see that maybe as a great thing that either we have more teachers staying on or we're recruiting more veteran teachers.
Increase class size.
And then that was my other thing. Or is this really budget driven? But
This is budget driven. Yeah, we have been seeing, the trend of 400 something teachers over the past several years. And with the increased class size, we just hired less.
right, and day-to-day students and teachers, right, see this, right, viscerally. I mean, right, for us, it's numbers, for me anyway, it's numbers on a PowerPoint, but I'm feeling that viscerally. Yeah, okay. Thank you for telling us that.
Okay, well, I'll segue from Mr. Bass's question in terms of impacts on our systems due to financial constraints. So what I'm sitting here thinking is this is all great. How do we sustain this? And are we in a position to sustain this? We won't be here to pass the next budget, but we can certainly, give feedback on the development of this budget as well as you. And if you think about the long-term financial health of FCPS, you need to have strong core because you want to retain your best and brightest so that we're not having to spend the money to go out and continue to hire new with, higher, due to higher turnover. So having said that, what are we doing to make sure that there's enough advocation for strong professional development? In the budget.
Okay.
Sorry.
Start down that path. 44% of teachers nationally leave the teaching profession in the first 5 years. That's very significant. We have been very intentional with this department to reinforce it. A lot of times boards see this as low-hanging fruit when it comes to budget reductions. This board has not. They've honored the work that we're doing. The other piece of information, I don't have the exact data, but if you look around at surrounding school districts, they are really struggling to have a deep bench with administrators. We have a deep bench. And that is much of the work of these folks over here, ensuring that we have strong professional learning in place and that we're giving individuals opportunities to grow. So we're positioned very well. Corinne, when did we create this organizational development? 5 years ago, 6 years ago? 5 years ago. And we've continued to grow it and make it a priority. And we're hopeful that the board will continue to support this endeavor because it is so very important. We know that teachers are the number one factor in student success in the classroom. And we second our principals. So those two individuals are so very important for it. We did it in charge.
And I think the superintendent is on board with that. It's just like, we need to spend smartly and it's not low hanging fruit. This is like part of the trunk,
Very
So,
much so. Very much so. But not all boards recognize that, Mrs. Johnson.
Oh, well, I hope we continue to recognize that. I have a couple more questions and one is on the Elite Accelerate. You said that there's 6 aspiring executive leaders are in that program. And can you just give a sample of like what the current job title for those participants might be?
They're all principals.
All principals? Okay, that's a good sample.
And they're all at different levels. So we have 2 elementary, 2 middle, and 2 high.
Okay. I have, so I know this work, you just said like basically started 6 years ago. And we alluded a bit to the fact that we have negotiated agreements to adhere to. Who's overseeing like that we're getting the right folks at the table for the continuous development of the professional development that would bear in mind the factor of blueprint requirements and negotiated agreements and then our systemic objectives? Like who's like chief of oversight for making sure those things happen? And then you were gonna point at each other.
Well, actually, I was gonna elevate it a little higher because we have these discussions in the superintendent cabinets
Okay.
with chiefs and leaders from all of the different departments and divisions really talking about this work and what's important and how are we collaborating and supporting one another through all of the things that we need to do, and making sure that we are considerate of our federal, state mandates, what our priorities are locally. So it really is a cross-systemic, collaborative type of work. So we don't develop any of our programs in isolation. It really is with the lensing of Dr. Marco, but then also other members of cabinet as well.
Okay, thank you for that. And I'm going to kind of jump tracks here back to when we were looking at the training, and I'm going to go to the slide number here. It was on the Inspired Blue. What's the difference between Inspired Blue and yellow?
Okay.
Yeah, so great question. The difference is,
Save that for my last question.
It's
I just think I'm not that smart.
yeah, no, it's how they serve the system. And really, the content doesn't change. We have become much larger. And so we can't all fit in the same room. So at the end of the day, that's a big part of it. Nor can we pull all of our assistant principals, our principals, and the people that serve
It's the same thing.
out. Same thing, same
Different.
content, just how they serve the system.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
easy enough. And then this is kind of like a little nitpick for me, but I'll just go bring it up. The term secretary, what's our systemic position on like eliminating use of that term and moving toward administrative assistant?
So
Because even at the front office,
That's negotiated, right? So there are different job titles that exist in our system already. There are different types of, and yes, the word secretary, we have school-based secretaries, we have 10-month secretaries, we have executive secretaries, senior executive secretaries.
and administrative assistants.
Then we have junior, senior executive secretaries, we have administrative assistants, we have administrative assistant twos, and then we get to executive assistants and executive assistant twos. So that language, yes, I've definitely heard that as well. That language is part of our negotiated agreements and how that job title is broken down based on the duties that they're completing every day and their responsibilities.
so can we still keep the duties, but have a job title that, it just seems like an old term. So I don't think I'll be around long enough to make this a bone I'm gonna chew on, but I just think, let's do better. We're consistently trying to improve, and I think that is a term that I've never referred to. Rich is our executive secretary. I think that that might have been her title at first. I don't even refer to her as that. Like,
I'm also thinking her title is different.
She's an
Or
executive,
executive
yeah,
assistant,
she should, I believe she
maybe
is
an executive assistant.
number 2,
Yeah.
correct.
But she's more of an executive. She keeps the board together. I mean, so like even that, she's like an associate.
Would it be accurate to, I mean, I would support that in conversations with FACE, that we bring up, maybe there's interest in
And she's not a member of that, but
name, but for the secretaries, renaming the position.
why are
See
we
if if FACE would be open to this.
I was just going to say that example that you mentioned for the board office, that title is executive assistant 2, the kind of the highest level that Ms. Morgan just referenced. So there, that progression will be there. But yeah, I think that's good feedback. And but just to answer your question about that specific title, it is like the highest level along that progression that Ms. Morgan mentioned.
But it still doesn't reflect actually what she does. I've never referred to her as an assistant. Like she is like, I call her an associate. Even if that's not her title, I still refer to her as our executive associate. And for anyone who will ask us, she truly keeps this board together. Like,
I love
she's my peer, but she's not elected. But without her, she is the continuity that will keep this board running. So her title should reflect what she does.
And I will add to that, if that's okay, that I think one of the things that's special about this department is that we are passionate about all of the staff in our system. So from our leaders, our teachers, and our support staff, right? Because we know that our support staff really do so much work behind the scenes. So that's one of the great things about this department is that we look at all of these staff that are in our system.
So if we could put that back, I don't know, do you support that? Trying to eliminate the term secretary?
Yeah. As always, and I feel like especially on this one, with discussion with FACE, I hope the way we're approaching this as it would be more elevating, to use the term not secretary. I hope folks in FACE would look at it in the same way.
We'll take the conversation back.
Broach it, that would be awesome. So I'll just, I had no other questions. I just, well, you want more questions or
I have
comments?
one more
Okay.
if there's
Well, if
time.
you can finish. I was just gonna say thank you for all of this. I never got a chance to thank everybody for all their work and diligence on that. You can see the respective passion and care that you put into your work every day. And I want to make sure that that goes recognized and, from as a member of the board and as a member of the educational community as well outside of FCPS. I really congratulate you on what you're able to accomplish for our community.
We're always strategizing about any revenue opportunities when there basically are almost none available to school systems. But I'm just so encouraged by the work being done with the RISE induction experience. And my guess is it is more than can be offered in smaller counties, or more than can be offered by counties whose boards haven't invested in the same way in the teacher induction experience. Is there a scenario where we could speak with the state of Maryland to see if we can offer our training to other counties and that they would pay us to do so?
So I was on a call with MSDE and point of contacts from other local school systems as we were talking about the shift from certification to licensure. And MSDE was lifting up the RISE program as an avenue to be able to move folks from their initial certification to their licensure, to their professional licensure. And most of the counties on that call really struggled to envision how they would be able to develop such a program. I think it was maybe one or two others that had something similar. And so we were able to share at that point a little bit about our RISE induction 3-year program. And we've been in conversations with some other local school systems about what we're doing, how we lift that up as they struggle to do some of that work as well.
We've had it's 3 or 4 systems join us for our evidence-informed work. We also have Hood working with us, evidence-informed. What's really cool about Hood is they just took our work and have implemented it in their pre-teaching program in all their syllabi, which is huge. We have McDaniel reaching out to us. We have Mount St. Mary's. So there's a lot of momentum in Frederick County with the work that we're doing with evidence-informed research-based instruction.
There's so many positives there, and certainly being a model and being good, good colleagues to other counties is excellent. But right, as the state moves right from certification to licensure, perhaps if we truly are, it sounds like we are the leaders in the state on this. I think there could be opportunities for us to offer some of this training to other teachers in other counties.
I was struck yesterday with Jim Hill. Now, Jim Hill is a researcher, he's an author all over the world, and a Harvard professor, and he does work all over the world. And he commented with the administrators yesterday, you all have to know that the work that you're doing in Frederick County, I've not seen that anywhere in the world. This is a unique work where you're able to leverage what you're doing at such a high level throughout the entire school system. He says, in all of my travels to England and to other places around the world, as well as throughout the United States, I've never seen anything implemented like this to the degree that you all are doing it.
I had breakfast with him this morning. He's Chile, Germany, England. He had like 5 stops, Colorado. And we have them for free because we're considered the pinnacle of evidence informed in the United States.
I mean, I don't think we talk about it enough. And I certainly felt that way. There was, was it last year? There was an international conference at Frederick High that we organized.
That was
Research Ed.
Research Ed.
Research Ed.
First time ever in the United States.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways to approach this, but to me, pitching some of this to either local or not local media on the good work that we're doing, but I also, I just think the connections you've made and the feedback you're getting from MSDE on this, I wonder if there's revenue opportunities with that.
I'm going to send you the website with our partnership with a research organization, Deans for Impact, and our collaboration with Hood that really captures a lot of some of the work that we're doing, and then also send you information in case you're able to come to some of our Learning Science Consortium.
That's great. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Jackson?
No, those are my
I
questions.
just took a couple notes here for myself. As usual, we're all excited about everything and all the great work going on in CNI, but we're not going to run over. So I've had to happen when I was off for a year and I came back
Yeah.
and it ran the meeting over because I was so happy to talk about curriculum instruction again.
We're in a good spot.
Yeah, we're in a great place, and that's credit to everybody here at the table and everybody that you work with. So thank you. So.
Thank
I
you for
have-
advocating for this area. It's so very important.
Well, it's an easy evocation. I mean, it's smart. Let's be strategic and smart and invest in our people and try to keep them and grow them. You know, that's what a good business would do, even though we're not a business per se, but those are also good business practices. And who benefits from this? Our kids. So, you know, it's a no-brainer to me, but we always have the fiscal limitations that will be perpetual. And I suspect even worse this year from everything I can get my hands on reading wise. So we have future agenda topics, 3.01, and there's the calendar here. So next month, Mr. Murphy, do you want to just preview it, or want me to just read this?
You read my mind because we do have a little bit of housekeeping to do on the future agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, next month, October 9th, this is when we continue our sort of journey through the blueprint pillars. This is, we begin pillar 3, our college and career readiness pathways. There's going to be a lot here with dual enrollment, advanced placement, CTE, as we talk really about those CCR pathways. So that is October. Although it will be a different committee, there are a couple of things for the springtime. We're asking that you weigh in on or bless for us here today. First is the April meeting. It's scheduled on April 9th. You may recall that recently the full board meeting in April was changed to April 23rd. So we were wondering if the CNI committee would like to keep the meeting on April 9th. Knowing that there's no meeting that afternoon or evening, would you prefer to move the CNI to April 23rd, day of the board meeting?
My only concern would be if policy committee is going to try to meet on April 23rd.
No other meetings scheduled, no other committees scheduled to meet on the 23rd at this time.
If I were serving on the board at that time, I would certainly prefer it all to be
I
on the
would
same
prefer it
day.
as well.
Okay, well, we will triple check no other committee meetings that day.
And CNI in before policy.
And then lastly, we did add an item for the June meeting, which is the update on the district committee on assessments. So that is a change from the one you saw last time.
All right. So, given with the support of the board members present for the changes, then if anyone else has anything, anyone before we wrap up? No? All right, everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.